And I will start questions. Did you want to give it another minute?
We can get started.
You want to get started? Nutrition is usually a hot topic, so I anticipate there being some questions. So, for those of you that were unable to hop on our last education session, I actually think, Lydia, the format was really well. We allowed our presenter to get through the content, and then as people had questions, they placed them in the chat. And then Sarah, if okay by you, we kind of, whatever time we had left, we were able to kind of look through the chat and filter through some of those questions. Certainly any questions that remain unanswered, we can, log them and have Sarah get back to Lydia with some answers to those. But with all due, in terms of time, let me give the introduction. Again, my name's Melissa. I'm with Hartford HealthCare. Lydia and myself kind of brainstorm periodically to try and bring you some topics that may be relevant to some of your day-to-day health journey, health needs. And one of the things Lydia had reached out with was nutrition, right? We hear about it every day. We live it every day. So today we have Sarah Kahn with us. She is one of our registered dietitians that works under Hartford HealthCare over at the Center for Healthy Living at Manchester Hospital. If I'm not wrong, I do believe you are also a lifestyle coach, Sarah, certified under the National Diabetes Prevention Program. So Sarah is a very, very well-rounded individual who is going to present today on nutrition. I believe the name of the talk is called Back to Basics. So Sarah, I will let you take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Melissa. So, hi everyone. So, let me get my slides up just so then we can get that situated. So, yes, it's called Nutrition Back to Basics. I think today's really agenda is kind of getting rid of all that online information you see and bringing it back to what are the basic principles that we need to follow to stay healthy, right? So, hopefully that's my agenda for today, and hopefully that comes across to you. So, Melissa did an introduction about me, so I'm not going to spend much time on this. But again, at Hartford HealthCare at Manchester Memorial Hospital, I'm one of the dietitians. I'm also a lifestyle coach. We do the diabetes prevention program. I also have a private practice. My special focus is really on weight loss, women's health, hormonal health, and starting to kind of get into diabetes too. And really, what's brought me into the field and what I'm passionate about is really health looks different for every person, right? So, finding culturally inclusive recipes and ways to look healthy. My healthy is going to look different from Melissa's healthy, then you're healthy, then everyone's healthy on this call. So, that's really what my biggest push is, that we can all eat healthy and eat our culturally whatever foods that we like, and we can find ways to do that. So, let's get started. So, it's going to be pretty simple, right? I'm going to refer to this probably a few times throughout the slides. You've probably seen something like this before. We had the My Plate that no longer exists, but still can follow it, right? So about at least a quarter, if not half our plate, we want to have what's called non-starchy vegetables. Those are most of your vegetables other than the really starchy ones. So thinking of like potatoes, peas, corn, that's the ones that come to mind real quick. But if we needed a list, I could provide a list as well. And then trying to get about a quarter of our plate to be proteins and then the last quarter to be carbohydrates, right? And when it comes to those carbs, we really want to opt for whole grains. That's really the key here. So I know these days, especially online, everything's protein, right? There's like protein Doritos out there now. It's a little bit crazy, but so I'm not going to be recommending those, but protein is still important, right? So why? So really, it's about building, maintaining, and repairing our muscles. You may see this and think, well, I don't really care about bodybuilding, or I don't really want to be that muscular. That's really not the key here. This is just for every single individual. It's really important. It helps us maintain our bone density. It gives you strength, right? So we need strength to do our daily tasks. We need strength to live our lives. How many times have you heard of someone breaking their hip as they're getting older or having falls, right? And that leads to other things. So really trying to reduce those complications as we age, because unfortunately we're all aging. Um, so as we're aging, we just want to keep our strength up to kind of protect those bones and joints. So it really provides that cushioning as well. So protein is going to be very important. It helps reduce risk of chronic diseases, cancers. It also just keeps you fuller, right? Because it's kind of reducing your appetite. So it helps keep you full. You're eating less. And if you're trying to lose weight, that's another way. Um, when it comes to protein, trying to get a variety, we'll kind of talk about in the next slide, animal and plant-based sources, but really just understanding the importance of protein. It is truly important. Does it need to be in our Doritos? Maybe not. I don't know. I could have dietitians argue that all day, probably. Um, so when it comes to animal and plant-based proteins, right? So animal proteins, like it's in the name, includes your meat, your poultry, fish, eggs, dairy, anything that's really coming from an animal. These are usually going to be higher in some vitamins and nutrients, so vitamin B12, iron, zinc, all of these have important roles in our body. They are also higher in saturated fat and cholesterol. So we do want to consider that when it comes to our heart health. So when you are choosing animal proteins, you want to choose lean cuts of meat. You want to do skinless poultry. You want to trim off some of that excess fat. Try to kind of get rid of that extra saturated fat and cholesterol to limit it a little bit more. And then with plant proteins, those include, really, it's in the name, right? So all your plants, right? So legumes, beans, lentils, chickpeas, your nuts and seeds, your whole grains, brown rice, right? These are all high in fiber. They're high in antioxidants, phytochemicals, really great for just fighting off and reducing the risk of cancers as well. So both of these are important. Again, you may have come across online and all these different avenues that we're getting information from these days. So you may see that like, oh, plant-based is better, or people do the carnivore diet. Really, it's getting a variety. I personally follow both, right? I don't do only plant-based. I don't only do animal-based. It's really important to kind of get both in our diets because they both have, again, the good in there and the good in there kind of vary, right? So they both have different positives that they're bringing us. So really trying to get a blend of the two. When it comes to fats, right? So you've heard of saturated and unsaturated. What do those mean? So just to kind of break it down a little bit, simplify these terms. There's also trans fats, which are like not even a thing anymore. They're trying to eliminate them completely. So I'm not even going to spend time on that. So saturated fats are really found in animal products. You'll find them in meat, butter, full fat dairy. These can raise what's called our LDL cholesterol. And LDL, I just put a little image because sometimes I'm a visual learner. So I like to put an images so then I can kind of visualize it. But LDL is really going to be what's called your bad cholesterol. We want to limit that, right? Versus HDL is the good cholesterol. We want that a little bit higher. So saturated fats, they can increase our LDL cholesterol, which we don't want, right? That can increase our risk of heart disease. And then unsaturated fats, those are going to be found in like thinking of like olive oil, avocados themselves, fatty fish, salmon, nuts, seeds. These can help really reduce that bad cholesterol while raising the good cholesterol. So it's like doing two things at once, right? And it helps kind of keep you full longer, right? Fats are higher in calories, so they do kind of provide that satiety. So they do keep you full longer. So it's a great way if you're looking at different foods, just being aware of what kind of fats they have in them, which ones we want more of. All right. And then carbs, right? I don't have to talk about carbs. We all love our carbs, right? Um, so carbs are our body's primary source of energy. It's a preferred source of energy, which is a great thing because we like our carbs. However, right, we want to still limit them. We still want to be mindful on how we're getting our carbohydrates. So when it comes to carbs, there's really two different types. There's your simple, which is just they're quickly digested. So they don't have much fiber. They're thinking of your fruits, processed sugars, right? These can kind of cause a spike in our blood sugar levels. So we want to be mindful on how and when we eat simple carbohydrates. Um, Versus our complex carbs, they take a little bit longer to digest. They're high in vitamins, minerals, and fiber. So they have a lot of that. They take a little bit longer to digest. Some sources of these are your whole grains, your legumes, so beans, lentils, chickpeas, and then your starchy vegetables as well. So what is fiber, right? So I was talking about fiber right here, right? This is high in fiber, wire complex carbs better. Let's get into fiber now. You may have also seen a lot of this online. People are also like, oh, protein's not important, fiber's important. No, water's important, right? There's like all these fights online, which I would argue all of them are important for different reasons. So fiber is a type of a carbohydrate, right? And it really just helps with digestive health. So thinking of your gut, right? It helps support weight management because it keeps you full a little bit longer. It can also help regulate a lot of those blood sugar spikes, right? So when we're thinking of blood sugar going up because maybe we're eating something that's high in sugar, if it had a little bit more fiber, it won't cause as much of a spike. Maintains heart health, right? It can actually, fiber is actually directly related to cholesterol levels and can help bring down that LDL or that bad cholesterol. So we want to aim to get 25 to 35 grams of fiber per day. That is a lot of fiber, and I think majority, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a lot of people, most people do not get enough, right? So now we do want to increase our fiber. Now, I don't want you to leave here and be like, Sarah said to get 30 grams of fiber, I'm going to start tracking my fiber and getting 30 grams because your stomach will not be happy with you. You want to slowly increase that fiber. And as you increase it, you want to increase your water with it, right? It will do not great side effects for your stomach, right? You don't want to feel miserable. So being aware of just, we want to increase our fiber, but we have to slowly do it. And as we do it, really keep up with your water intake with that. Okay, so now let's get into some breakfast ideas, right? So I know a lot of this talk was planned around just kind of getting some ideas out there. And getting just, I know a lot of you are working from home, some of you are in the office, so you are busy individuals. You don't have time a lot of the times. You're probably grabbing things quick, right? So let's make it easier for us. So what's a healthy breakfast? The reason I put eggs at the top is eggs are probably given a bad rep sometimes, and they're just, I don't know, people talk bad about eggs, and they're really such a great source of high quality protein. So they're a great way to kind of start your day getting in some eggs, right? What does that look like? Again, it's going to be different for you and it's going to be different for me. It could be maybe you're making egg muffins, maybe you're just frying an egg, maybe you're doing a boiled egg. It could be a frittata, it could be eggs with toast, it could be a breakfast quesadilla. Maybe you're feeling fancy and you're just in that kitchen chopping up some veggies and throwing it together, right? Get creative. I really suggest, especially if you're not comfortable in the kitchen, just finding small ways of incorporating little ways you can start cooking or finding the best ways to kind of prepare meals. Really getting creative in the kitchen will be your best bet, right? Because you can kind of load up on some of those vegetables that we're talking about, a lot of those healthy fibers. That's how you're going to increase it. Another idea is just like avocado or peanut butter toast, right? Avocado toast, you could really put whatever you'd like on it. I put a little picture here for some ideas because I think sometimes pictures can give us like little inspiration. It's like, oh, I actually do like an egg muffin. Why haven't I made that in the last few weeks or months, right? We kind of forget about the things we used to like. So I like to kind of use these to trigger some ideas for you guys. Um, but using avocado toast, maybe putting an egg on it, right? If you're doing peanut butter toast, peanut butter, just try to get the natural one so then it doesn't have too much added sugar. So you want to be mindful of the amount of sugar and additives it can have. So try to find a natural peanut butter. Using that, topping it, you could put some bananas on it, you could put some chia seeds, right, for some healthy fiber. So just thinking of little ways to increase that fiber intake, the protein. Come back to that plate method that we were talking about, right? Really, how can we kind of get that plate method? How can we get our vegetables in, our carbs, and our protein? A lot of this, it's not about, I know a lot of people come in and they're like, oh, maybe they're newly diagnosed diabetes, and they're like, well, no, I can't eat rice anymore, or I can't eat pasta. And it's like, no, you can. It's just a combination of the foods. So that's really what a lot of these recipes are kind of telling you, right? So even now looking at our overnight oats, right? So oats by themselves, if you're just making them, they will be pretty high in carbs. They'll have some fiber, but they're not going to have much protein, right? So maybe we're choosing a good high quality milk, right? Maybe we're using like a protein milk. I know there's protein milk out there too, right? Like your Fairlife or whatever it may be, trying to increase it. Maybe you're putting some yogurt, right? To kind of mix it in to kind of increase that protein in your oats. And then topping it with chia seeds, it's a great way to get in some extra fiber. You could do some nuts, you could do some fruit if you want it a little bit sweetened. Great way to get in, especially some berries are high in fiber, so those would be great. When it comes to smoothies, right, just making sure you're getting some kind of a protein in. I think sometimes smoothies are like these acai bowls. I love them, but I think they're more of a dessert than a breakfast sometimes. So we want to be mindful on how we're creating it. So what are we putting in it? We really want to increase some of that protein. So again, maybe you're using Greek yogurt, right, as the base instead of just all fruits. Or maybe you're mixing it in. So if you're making a smoothie, making sure you're getting some kind of protein. It could be protein powder, it could be milk, it can be yogurt, really whatever you like. And then sneak in a vegetable, right? It's a great way to throw in like a handful of spinach. Throw in some vegetables into the smoothie. You won't even taste it. You won't even notice it, right? A lot of people put avocados in a smoothie. It gives it that smooth texture, and you don't really taste it too much either. Parfaits, I will say about parfaits, try to make them yourselves. When you get one of those parfaits, in the store in a cafeteria, they're really pretty loaded with sugar, right? So it's usually a sweetened yogurt with more fruits that's sweetened and usually in like a syrup, and then plus some granola and like sometimes there's whipped cream, so it's like all sugar. So we want to be mindful, right? If you're making your own parfait, you could use Greek yogurt, maybe use plain Greek yogurt or do cottage cheese, right? Add some berries. You don't need the sugar syrup ones. You just need some plain old berries and some maybe high fiber granola, or and then you could again top it with some chia seeds, get some of that extra fiber in your diet. So just different ways of thinking about it, get comfortable with it, play around, right? Have fun with it. Don't, food is a beautiful thing. It doesn't have to be this evil and it shouldn't be so complicated, right? Enjoy the process, enjoy the journey while you're on it. So ideas for quick lunches. I think lunch is probably the biggest struggle I would assume here because I've worked from home and I can understand, right? You're maybe, especially a busy day, people forget to eat lunch, right? Maybe you're skipping your lunch. Maybe you're just eating something quick. Maybe you're just grabbing something through a drive-through because you don't have time, right? Now, we really want to be mindful of our lunches, right? There's just, I mean, we say breakfast is the most important meal, but I really think all three are important. Um, your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So when it comes to your lunches, maybe when we're talking about salads, not pushing a salad agenda here. I know some people don't like their salads. We all talk about other ideas. But if you are thinking of a salad, if you're in the office and there's a salad bar, maybe you're going to the salad bar, right? Maybe you're grabbing one of those pre-made salads because it's just easier and you don't have time on your hands. That's okay. Just make it creative, make it your own, trying to just get in some vegetables, some protein, and healthy fat. That's really the key here. So as long as you're getting all these three, that's the goal, whatever that looks like. Again, it could be a pre-made salad, it could be a salad bar. Maybe you're chopping everything yourself and making it all yourself. Great, right? There's no perfect way to do this. It's really about what you're getting in. And then when it comes to sandwiches and wraps, they can be a great way. They can be pretty high in carbs, right? Especially a wrap. So you do want to be careful on the type of wrap you're buying. If you're getting it at like a cafeteria, be mindful, maybe looking at the back of the label, right? You want to take a look at the label, see, is there any fiber in that wrap, right? If there's not, maybe you're opting for wheat bread instead. The wheat wraps are not too great either. They're still pretty high in carbs. So just be mindful of that. Maybe you're doing a half a wrap instead, or you're just loading it up with vegetables to kind of balance those carbs. So whenever you can, when if you're having a sandwich, if you're having a wrap, load it up with vegetables. That's really my your best bet, right? Make sure that again, you want a protein, you have your carbs with the bread or the wrap. Make sure you're having a good protein with it, and then adding in some fresh vegetables, either in the salad, I mean in the sandwich itself, or maybe you're doing a side salad, right? Whatever you like, whatever your preference is. Some grain bowls are a great way to just get in some extra protein and vegetables. You could kind of get creative with it, right? You could do whatever grain you like. Maybe you like quinoa, maybe you like rice, maybe you like farro. There's so many different grains out there. Getting creative with it. Try different things, right? Maybe you'll like some things, maybe you'll hate it and you'll never try it again. Um, Leftovers, I think this is my favorite one. It doesn't require any work, right? It's easy. It keeps it simple. If you're making dinner the night before, maybe you're making some extra so you can have leftovers, right? It's just you're going to save time. You don't have to think too much about it. You don't have to plan. It makes it a little bit easier. And then protein bars or shakes, if you need a meal replacement, really not preferred. But if you need something and you're going to skip a meal, I'd rather have you have a protein bar or shake instead of nothing. Okay. So when it comes to balanced snacks, right? So just being creative with it again, but making sure really when it comes to a snack, if you're having a carbohydrate, balance it with either a fat, fiber, or protein, right? So maybe you're doing fruits with nut butter, maybe you're doing vegetables with hummus, yogurt with some granola, right? So just trying to find that balance. Trail mix is a great way. It's easy, but you just want to be careful of the portions because nuts are going to be high in fat. So you do want to limit those. We don't want to do too many. So just being mindful of it, but some good ideas. I love a little vegetable plate, especially if I'm working from home. It's something to snack on throughout the day. Make sure you kind of get some extra veggies in. And then when it comes to dinner, right? Just keeping it simple, simple weeknight dinners. I love sheet pan meals. You don't really dirty too many dishes. So you have one big old sheet pan. You could do chicken, you could do salmon, you could do potatoes, veggies, really whatever you like and whatever you have on hand, maybe, right? The one pot recipes are like another favorite. I hate the dishes, can you tell? So just making sure, right? Like, okay, what's some like one pot recipes I can follow? Again, it doesn't have to be like this crazy healthy recipe. Come back to the basics, right? Do you have a vegetable? Do you have a carb? Do you have a protein? That's really the key here, right? Can we get some extra veggies in there? Load it up with some vegetables, right? It's a great way to get some veggies in, especially in a one pot meal. You probably won't even notice them all in there. Tacos, love tacos any day. I mean, who doesn't, right? But make sure you're adding in those vegetables. Get some beans. Beans are a great source of protein and fiber. Maybe you're doing a meatless Monday, right? So maybe once a week you're doing that plant-based proteins instead, or maybe you're just doing some veggies, right? And then Taco Tuesday is a great way. I love the days when they're kind of thought out for you, right? Taco Tuesday makes it easy because you don't have to think of what am I making? It's like, all right, it's Taco Tuesday, we're making tacos. It makes it a little bit easier for you. So just some ideas, but really remembering this plate, I think this plate keeps it simpler than it has to be. We don't want to overcomplicate these things. And then I really like this plate method because you can use it wherever you go. If you're at home, you can try to follow it. If you're out with friends, you can try to follow it. You can wherever you are. If you're at a buffet, maybe you're opting for a little bit more vegetables because you're aware of right, I know I need half. Maybe I'm not really getting half today, but maybe I'm putting a little bit more than I would typically. All right. And then really the end is back to basics, right? Let's keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate these things. I know online can be a crazy space. The amount of information we get is a little bit overwhelming at times. But keeping it simple, meaning just, all right, thinking of our three basic meals, right? So you're having your three meals per day that look a little bit something like this, right? You have your vegetables, have a carb, have a protein. There's no reason to eliminate carbs. I know there's the whole keto world is out there and the Atkins and I don't even know what they're called. There's all these diets out there. Put all that to the side. We don't need any of those diets, right? We're just following this simple method. No skipping meals, right? Really important to not skip your meals. I know some people like to do fasting and things, but really for your hormonal health, just to make sure you're eating enough throughout the day, because that's also important. Try to get your three balanced meals per day. Balancing out your snacks, like I said, if you have a carb, add a protein, add a fat, add a fiber, right? So maybe you're doing fruits with a cheese stick. Maybe you're doing fruits with some nuts. Maybe you're doing a Greek yogurt, so that's some protein right there, right? Maybe you're doing a Greek yogurt, you could top it with some fruits, and there's your carbs, right? So just get creative with it, have fun with it. Of course, enjoy the journey. Um, Anytime you can add in some more fruits and vegetables, especially your veggies, add those in, right? Really, the more you add in, the better, right? I don't see anyone ever having an issue with too many vegetables, right? And most of us probably can opt for more. Being mindful of your portion sizes. So just being aware that, all right, we're following the plate method. Maybe you're still hungry, right? Maybe you had a plate. Say, for example, you had the salmon, right? You had some rice, you had some broccoli. Maybe you're still hungry. Maybe you're going back for seconds. Go for the protein and the veggies, right? Maybe we're skipping the carbs. But depends, right? Depends on what's going on with you. You want to know, like it has to be a little bit more personalized to you. And then drinking water. I know I couldn't get into water too much today because of the short talk, but just knowing the importance of water. getting about 6 to 8 cups per day, which are the 8-ounce cups. If you have a little water bottle, I always have one with me. This always helps, right? Helps remind you to drink your water, keep it by your side all the time so you remember. Um, Prepping and planning your meals is a great way of just kind of getting in some planning so then you don't have to think about it too much, right? So if you can meal prep some things, great, even better. Meal prep is always a great way of just not having to think about it at a later point. I always say maybe you're meal prepping the things that you're struggling to get. So if you're struggling to get your protein in, maybe you meal prep your protein. If you're struggling to get veggies in, maybe you meal prep your veggies, right? So meal prep, make it so that it works smarter for you. And again, keeping healthy snacks on hand. I think a lot of times we just work, 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 right? We kind of forget about some of these things. So keeping things on hand, planning ahead, keeping your fridge stocked, your pantry stocked with some healthy snacks, some fresh fruits, right? It's a great, easy way. I also think like we eat with our eyes first, right? So if you have a fruit bowl, having that fruit bowl where you're working is you're more likely to reach for that fruit instead of something that's maybe like chips or something else. So just keeping healthy, easy snacks on hand so then you're more likely to reach for them. All right. That's
Awesome job, Sarah.
so.
We do have a few questions if you are open to taking them. The first is, should we adjust meal content, for example, carbohydrates, if eaten before or after workouts?
So, yeah, so if you're doing a workout, really what you want before is carbs for like quick energy. And then after a workout, you really want protein for replacing that. So, because especially if you're strength training, you want to replace some of those muscles and repair those muscles. So, you want to make sure you're getting protein. So, I always say, like, especially, I don't count those as meals per se. I would say more of a snack. So like maybe you're doing a banana before the gym and then right after a quick protein shake, something quick that you can have after.
Awesome. Thank you. Next question, in regards to eggs, do you recommend just the egg white?
So I do not. I think there's different things out there. The research these days has shown that egg yolks, so the reason that people were avoiding egg yolks was because of the cholesterol. What we've now learned is that dietary cholesterol does not affect your blood cholesterol. It's really the saturated fats. So I'm going to go back to my previous slide. Oh gosh, I'm clicking a million things. So when it comes back to our fats, really that LDL cholesterol is raised from that saturated fat, right? So the egg yolks, to my knowledge, all the research I've done, it doesn't show to make that big of a difference. As long as you're not eating like 10 eggs a day, then I'd be concerned. If you're eating a couple eggs, I think the regular eggs is fine. Egg whites is a great way to increase your protein. So if you just want to kind of, sometimes what I'll do is like a couple eggs and egg whites just to kind of increase that protein a little bit. You can, but I don't think you can only go for one or the other.
Got it. Perfect. Next, what are your thoughts on supplements?
So supplements are good if we need them. I prefer the real foods, right? Real fruits, vegetables, if you can. That's definitely the preference. But I would get like your labs checked, right? Get your labs checked, see what you're deficient in to see what you need. You may be taking a vitamin that you really don't even need. So make sure that it's actually useful and that you're spending your money wisely.
Excellent. Let's see. This, I really enjoy the meal suggestions, but how do you balance that with a calorie intake per day? For example, enjoying avocado toast or peanut butter, but then those can be high in calories. So even Greek yogurt can be higher in calories. Do you focus on the meals or the calories in the meals?
So every person's going to be a little bit different. If you're on a weight loss journey and you are calorie counting, then I would suggest tracking your meals. And then that way you would be aware of how much you're getting. And you have to be aware of the portion sizes, right? So for example, if we take that avocado toast I was talking about, we're not doing the whole avocado. Maybe we're doing a half a avocado, right? We don't have to do the whole thing, limiting it. Maybe you're sharing it. Maybe you're wrapping it up. I know avocados go bad on us so quick, but wrapping it up and saving it for the next day, right? So still, you want to limit the portions. Um, I think Greek yogurt, I mean, you can buy a low-fat Greek yogurt or a fat-free one that will be lower in calories. You do want to be mindful if you're buying like one of those pre-packaged yogurts, just if it has added sugars, what does it have, right? So a lot of these things, it does require turn the label around, take a look at it, and make the best judgment for yourself.
Excellent. What can I do to help with managing gout?
So with gout, that would be more specific. So that actually will bring me to my end. So if you wanted to kind of set up a one-to-one, I would have to be able to see things a little bit closer, right? I think when it comes
Absolutely.
to certain things out there, right? If it's diabetes, pre-diabetes, whatever it is, I think sometimes it's like, all right, I got to take a little bit closer look. I don't like to just give a
A
generic advice.
generalization. That's fair.
Yeah, because
I
everyone's a
think
little
that's
bit
fair.
different, right? So I don't want to say anything that's going to be not great for you. So, but I mean, if you wanted to reach me, feel free to reach out and then we could kind of set up an appointment if possible and then talk about that a little bit more.
Sure. And then we have one last question. Is the additive that makes peanut butter creamy bad for health?
No, I mean, it doesn't need to be an additive. It could just be that they like blended it, right? So it's
Mhm.
not the creamy or the crunchy is not the problem. It's really the ingredients. So turn the label, look at the back. I always say if I had a grocery store, it would be the labels that are facing front because it's so frustrating. They make it so hard. So one day I'll come out with the grocery store, you guys, but take the peanut butter, turn it around, take a look at the ingredients. Really, it should have peanuts. That's the main thing. If it has salt, it has salt, but really you don't want too many additives in there. Some of them have a long list of ingredients, so just being mindful of
Sure, sure. I love that. And then I'll just ask because I feel like people really did enjoy a lot of your meal suggestions. Do you have any, maybe online resources that are your go-to for recipes for things like, like the sheet pan meals, the one pot dinners, things like that, that maybe people could start to explore on their own?
So I don't have one for recipes. I will say, so for nutrition, like generic advice, I like the Harvard website is great. Harvard.edu has a great nutrition website that has a lot of good ideas. They do have recipes within there. I really, again, I'm gonna bring it back to that plate, which you guys are gonna be so sick of it. Like, think of me, I'm tired of it too a little bit, but also it works, right?
Right.
So I really like this method. So it can be any recipe. It doesn't even have to be called a healthy recipe. Some of these recipes are labeled as like easy recipes, but you can make them healthier. It's really
Mhm.
about what are the portions, right? Are we limiting those carbs? Are we getting protein? Are we adding in some vegetables? That's really, I think, the key point here.
Yeah, for sure. I realize we're at time. There is one last question I'm going to ask Sarah. Do you have a quick minute?
Sure.
All right. I had gastric bypass surgery. I have to watch my fat and sugars. I don't like beans. Are there any other substitutes for those?
Yeah, so if you don't like beans, I mean, thinking of any of your other fiber sources, right? So there's chia seeds, there's a lot of your vegetables, a lot of your fruits, berries will be a great way to get in some. I think a lot of times we hear these things and it's like, oh, lentils are healthy, so I have to eat lentils. Like, you don't have to do anything. It's really what's in the lentil that we're looking for, right? What's the nutrient that we are missing? So beans will have your fiber. If you can't get them that way, you're getting them from somewhere else.
Excellent, excellent. Well, big applause to you, Sarah. Thank you so much for spending time with the folks over at RTX. I will be sure to send your information over to Lydia and Ken and everybody in the Health and Fitness Center so that if anybody wants to follow up with you or any of your colleagues, they will have a resource to do that with. But anyway, Lydia, Ken, anything else we can do for you here today?
That's all I got, but thank you so much. This was great. We really appreciate all the great information.
Thank
Excellent,
you.
excellent. All
Thank you.
right, awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll be back with another topic. All right, have a great day.